You talk about a pie. That is what you call a pie. Look at that thing. That is fabulous. Hi everyone, welcome to Backyard Chef. I'm Rick. Today, beef shin and potato pie. Old school cut of meat, beef shin. You used to see it everywhere years ago. Now, not so much. Everybody goes for the brisket, the top sides or whatever, you know, but beef shin is one of the most flavorful cuts of meat on the animal. Okay, and we're going to turn it into a pie. Now, we are using the Instant Pot, so don't turn off, you know, that's up to you. If you want to turn off, go somewhere else. You can cook this on the stovetop 3.5 hours. You can cook it in a slow cooker 4 to 5 hours on high, 7 to 8 hours on low. We're using this 30 minutes. So all the people who say, I don't have an Instant Pot. Well, I didn't have an Instant Pot until I went and bought one. It's one of the most valuable pieces of kit for making things like this in the kitchen. So it's up to you. Okay, beef shin. Beef shin we're going to cube up in a minute, but we're just going to chop up some onion, some garlic, some carrot. I've already peeled and diced up some potatoes, and then we're going to knock up a pastry, but we're not going to make a big thing out of the pastry. Use ready rolled. Okay, onion. We want to be dicing the onion. Entirely up to you how big or how small. I'm back in your bowl. Buy it, this is a quick recipe. Garlic, you can't eat it, don't use it. Simple. Big or as small as you like, mince away. Good enough. Little tub, one side. A little bit of a carrot. Now, you can put any veg in that you want, you know. Go for anything you want inside the pie. It doesn't matter. You're eating it. We're doing a little bit of carrot. We're going to cube it up. Nice and steady. Grab another tub. And that goes in there. That's basically our veg. Okay, done. One side. Beef. Now, our shin beef, we want to cube it. Okay, cube it up into some reasonable size cubes. This thing is going to pressure cook. They will shrink down in the pressure cooker. So we want some good chunks of shinned beef. Of course we do. We want to see the thing, you know. Now what we are going to do is sear this off in a pan and then put it in the Instant Pot liner. For all the people that watch the channel all the time, I do not saute in the Instant Pot. I just find there's not much control over it, you know. That's down to you as the individual. If you saute in your Instant Pot, you will saute the meat there. Now we are going to season this. It's a nice little seasoning on here. Salt and pepper. Nice little bit of salt on there. Nice bit of black pepper on there. Now you can use white pepper. Don't stress about the pepper. Whatever you've got. There you go. That is ready for searing in our pan. Flame on, pan on, beef in, sear. Now you can douse this shin beef with flour all over if you so wish. That's entirely up to you. You know, we don't really need it. get a bit of browning on their meat. Just give it a stir over. We're trying to get a little bit of colour on, look. You know, you can't believe the amount of fluid that's in this stuff. You've got to cook out the fluid all the time. Get a bit of crusty on there, that's all flavour. Some good old flavour there, look on that beef. Okay, that'll do, flame off. Take out the Instant Pot liner. Put that on there. And dump our meat in there. So there we go, that is in there, ready to go. Pan back on. A little bit more oil in there, look, we've used it all up. Carrots in first. They're hard veg. Just a little minute on there, and then we chuck our onions in. Little stir around. Now it's not much of a cook really, because it is going to pressure cook. Onions. Just cook out the rawness of the onions a little bit. I'm going in with a little bit of pepper and a little bit of salt. Not much. Just enough to draw the moisture out of there. If you get a bit of tinge on, fantastic. It's all flavour that's going to go inside the pie. Don't worry about it. I'm going in there with some dried thyme. You can use fresh. Just want to put some flavour in there now. That can start to bloom, release its oils before it goes in the Instant Pot. Now we want a couple of tablespoons of tomato paste or tomato puree. This is a bog standard pie mix, you know, very much old school. Worcester sauce for me in there. Those who want to use Henderson's, go ahead. I think it's weak, not much flavour. That'll upset everybody, even though I'm from Yorkshire and that's from Sheffield, Yorkshire. It's weak. It's not as strong as Worcester sauce. Worcester sauce is available all around the world. The only thing with Henderson's does not have anchovies in. So it is a vegetarian alternative, but it's just like a soy sauce. Okay, now we want to be cooking that a little bit, but I'm just going to go in there with a little bit of our beef broth that we're going to use in there, just to loosen up that tomato paste. Drain your potatoes if you've had them stood in water like I have. They're going in there. Just a couple of minutes. Just give them a little stir around, start them off. Now we're not really bothered about cooking these because they're going to cook in the Instant Pot for half an hour. Now you can go up to 40 minutes if you want, if you like really soft pull apart beef. But you know, I want beef with a little bit of texture left, and you know, at 30 minutes it's still going to be very, very soft. Now the beef broth, make out of either gravy granules or gravy powder or a stock cube. It's entirely up to you. That's good enough for me. That's going to be cooked for 30 minutes. It's all going to be cooked. So we got our beef in there. Look, we're just going to chuck in everything else and then add the rest of our beef stock. Give it a mix up. We don't want anything stuck on the bottom. Add the rest of our beef broth in there. That is a right pie mix right there. Look at that. That is absolutely sensational. Right, that goes in the Instant Pot. In it goes. Straight in there. I nearly forgot, you know, I always forget something. In there with a couple of bay leaves. In the top of there. Right, let's get cooking. On we go. Straight down here, find where it says pressure cook, click that, and we want to be pressure cooking for 30 minutes. I actually want some texture in this meat. So come down, and we're going to go for 30 minutes, let it do its thing. We're going to naturally release the pressure for 15 minutes, and then we'll throw the switch. That's it, job done, time to make the pastry. Okay, while that's playing away, let's just make some pastry. I've got all-purpose flour in here, salt, and I've got my fats. If you want to know how to make it, there's a link in the description. Just follow that because I'm just going to do this quickly. We're just bringing this in, nice and straightforward. Why do we lift, rub and drop? It just drops it back into the bowl. It's just easier, you know. If you sit doing this all the time, you're not getting anything done. So just nice and gently rub it through your hands, drop it in. Good enough. In here, water, apple cider vinegar and an egg in there. Turn your fork over and bring it in. Bring it in, nice and straightforward. Get a nice little pastry going on there. Okay, we got a lump of pastry there, look. We want some for a lid and we want some for the sides and the bottom. Nice and straightforward. Take a little bit of wrap over the top of there, and that is our pastry, and it can sit there till that's done. There we go, 15 minutes natural release, and then we'll throw the switch to manual release it. So just throw the switch in there. Oh, yes, please. That is sensational. I'm going to take that contents out of there into here. We know what we're playing with then. We know if we're going to use an 8-inch springform tin to make our pie, or we're going deeper. Okay, there's quite a lot there. I think there's going to be too much for there. So we're going to go for a deep pie. Of course we are. Come on. Want a little bit of flour on there. Now I've opted for this, and it is a loose bottomed cake tin. It's about 8.5 inch actually. That is what we're going to use. Take out the base. Now make sure you've got your oven on about 200 degrees. And you know the drill. Come on. We roll this out to fit that and up the sides. Now this is a deep dish. It could break up, we just patch it. So basically we want to dump that in there. And it's just a case of dump it in. So just feed it into the bottom, feed it round. Doesn't matter how it goes round, does it? Just get it in. So when you've got that in there like that, the best you can, it doesn't matter, does it? It's in. We want to be getting our filling in there. We're going in there with some of this filling. In it goes. Ooh, we don't want that on there, look. Now you could wait for it to cool down if you wanted, but we're going to get on and get it done. That is a serious amount of stuff in there. Now anybody with any brains would let that cool down before we did that, but there you go. Okay, we want a lid. I think that will get it just fine. Right, we've got a little bit of an egg here. Look, we're going to give it an egg wash, so we're going to give this a beating. It's a big pie. On there with our lid. Tuck the lid in. Right, we are just bringing over the bottom pastry over the top. We're squashing it down gently to start off with. We're just bringing it in. We're forming a seal inside the tin. I'm sure no one in the right mind's going as big as this. Right, The usual, you want a little bit of something on the top of there. 2 fingers, 1 finger, bring it round. It doesn't matter about the edge, you know. Well, a little bit of a vent in the top, as we have got an awful lot of filling in there. And we are just going to brush over the top with some egg wash. I think that looks beautiful. That is going in the oven. I've got myself a tray. It's got to go on a tray because I think this thing's going to leak. Okay, when you've had your time, that comes out of there. Look at that. That looks sensational. It's massive. We're going to have to let that cool down for about 10 minutes. Okay, let's figure a way of getting this thing out of here. It's not a springform tin, so... Oh, look at that. Look at that. You talk about a pie. That is what you call a pie. Look at that thing. That is fabulous. Okay, this is an absolute mega pie. We are going to try and cut a slice, and I am 100% certain the inside is going to fall out. So you're just going to see what I see. Come on. Now, do we think we can get a slice of that out of there? I don't think we can. We're going to go for it though. Are you ready? Are you ready for this? You're seeing this like I am. That is sensational. That is our shin beef and potato pie. Look at that. But come on, we're just going to go on here with some gravy. Oh, look. Look at that. Obviously you serve that with a veg of choice, chips. I've got the old HP sauce. We're going to have a splurge of that there. Look at this thing. Sensational. Packed to the gunnel. Packed to the gunnels like it should be when you make your own pie. In there. Oh yeah. That is off the charts. Look at this beef. Look at this beef. Look at that. That has got structure. That is as soft as it comes. That is why we use the Instant Pot. Oh yeah. Unbelievable. You know, I can't stop eating it already. Look at the beef. Look at the beef. It's just, oh yeah. There you go. That is a fantastic meal right there. Share with your friends. So easy to make. Shin beef and potato pie. Now, obviously serve it with whatever veg you want. Carrots or chips or peas or mashed potato. Anything like that. If you do like what we're doing, don't forget, big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell. Let's catch you in the next video. Oh yeah.